Hi.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Paranormally Blonde, right here on the X, your new mainstream. You're here with Dee Dee and Sarah V, and we have a huge show tonight.
Yes.
Huge, little nervous.
Yeah.
Gotta take a couple breaths. But before we get started, let's go back to last week. What a huge show that was. World's largest ghost hunt. We had
Exciting.
Michelle, Catherine and Rob. It was great information. Like, I really hope that it got shared. That show was shared, and I'm really hoping that all of those that's right, Michael, sleeveless Sarah in the room here. I hope that investigators or any enthusiast out there want to join this one time a year event, because it's so cool. It's amazing, and they were just the kindest. And then we had some fun with Rob after we sort of busted his chops a little bit for the after party and played a game. It was awesome. And then the X conference.
It was awesome.
Did you see some? Yeah. Was it like just a totally cool event? I had a daughter in town, so I did not. I'm gonna have to go back and watch. I know you can. I believe you can go back and
I hope so, because I didn't see all of it either. But I watched two speakers, and it was mostly about extraterrestrials and how they've discovered new things just really recently, and how on Tuesday there's going to be governments talking about all this stuff. So I was like, I got really excited about it.
I'm excited to sit down and to rewatch some of this stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, I don't know if you have to pre-register though to get we'll have to make sure Race kind of updates us on that. But so that happened. So kind of a big weekend. It was prom weekend over here. So got to watch my baby do her prom. So no more. That's over. Done. We're done. Okay, so we got a big show tonight. We have we were a door closed. We kind of had a last minute cancellation, which happens. Sometimes life happens. You just gotta allow guests to do what they gotta do. But you know what? I think the right door opened, and we are blessed to have the amazing Miss Andrea Perron. And I'm going to say I'm just going to put it right out there. I hope she forgives me. I can't say that name. It's Andrea. It's Andrea. I'm all over the place with it. I believe it's Andrea. So maybe she can. I know some people refer to her as Annie. I don't feel that I have earned that yet, so I don't want to call her that. But so we're going to have lots of time with her. If you don't know her, you're going to be so excited to meet this human being, this sweet
story.
Soul. Okay, so but before we even get started, we're going to do our random question. Oh, wait, before we do our random question. So because this is such a big show tonight, okay, and we kind of noticed this last week because the show was so big. If we start to get a ton of questions, what we think we're going to do here, tell me if I'm correct here, Dee Dee.
Yeah.
The last 10 minutes we're going to devote to your questions. So put them out there.
And we'll go back and find them.
We'll go back, we'll look at them, and then we can address those with Andrea, because it's going to be, we got a lot of information to go through. So, we want to make sure that everybody's questions are responded to, but it's probably going to be hard to do throughout the show. So last 10 minutes, you're not going to be forgotten. So hello to everybody. We have all sorts of people on here tonight. Travis and Sean and Michael and Bill and Tanya and Dehoot and Rob and Melissa and Vader Lord. And I don't know. Do I know your name? We don't know your name. I feel kind of weird calling you.
They
Vader
say
Lord,
you're
beautiful. Oh, well, thank you very much. Well,
Sean, Empty Casket, Dehoot.
Yeah, we got lots and lots of our friends here. So let's go for our random question before we bring on our amazing guest. And just pick it here.
Hopefully this one doesn't get me in trouble.
It might. Oh no. What's the craziest thing you've done in a car? Craziest thing you guys can answer too on the side, join in on the random question here. Crazy. Julie and Terry, you're here too. You know what, Vader Lord, I agree. They should have comic books for blondes. I think they should. We should be a star. We should star in our own comic book. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Right? Craziest thing you've done in a car. Flipped it. Well, Melissa, that's Hey,
Oh,
Danny's here. Yeah, that's
I
crazy and
guess.
scary.
Yeah, I guess the craziest thing I've done is I've driven up on top of a hill. You take like firefighters, like dirt roads, and I've gone up to the top and parked by the satellite tower.
Okay.
But knowing me, how scary I am, like to
Yeah.
not drive up hills.
Yeah.
But I was a teenager, so
Oh.
I look back, I think that was really crazy.
Yeah. I think it would be, I remember when my dad in the early 90s finally got his convertible Camaro. No, it wasn't early 90s. It had to be later 90s, but he got his convertible Camaro and I got to take it. I don't know why he'd even allow this. I got to drive it from Dallas to Austin to see my sister. And I remember I got it going pretty fast on the Texas highways.
Oh, but you made it.
I made it. And that might not really sound crazy, but like just taking your dad's prized possession and just like no regard, just like I'm gonna drive 110. Like I'm just gonna do it. And you know,
we'll see. He had to have known that was gonna happen.
Maybe, I don't know. But I did survive. Drove a mountain lion to New York City. You've got the craziest stories, Rob.
A mountain lion to New York City. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, I don't even know. Is that true? Is that true? Sledding in the woods while tied to the back of a truck.
That sounds fun.
Okay, Bill. I can see that. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I don't even know where this conversation's gonna go. She was so sweet. She said, no question is off the table. You can't say that to us.
Not to you.
Like, so are we going deep? Yeah. Like, what are we doing today? So we're going to bring on our beautiful guest, Ms. Andrea Perron. I don't even say it right. I don't even know. I'm all over. I apologize.
No, you're perfectly right. It's Andrea Perron.
Okay.
That's it. It's actually, my last name is French. It's Perron.
Well, I can't roll my R's.
Yep. I love that. And it doesn't mean anything glamorous. In fact, if translated, Perron means backdoor step. That's what it means.
Look at that. My Polish last name, my maiden name, actually means pebble. So there you go. That's
there you go.
There you go. Small stone.
But that's wonderful, you see, because I'm in the presence of the divine. This is the sacred feminine energy, all compressed into this beautiful show. And every one of us is throwing a pebble in the pond and creating the ripple effect that will create vibration and frequency and heal the world. You know, that's what we do. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. This is the rise of the sacred feminine energy. We are, as we leave the Piscean age and go into the age of Aquarius, which creates all this tumult and all this upheaval and, you know, all the fear and the loathing and the, you know, the everything that's all mixed up together helps us to sort through the filaments and to, you know, understand that each one of them has a purpose. And when we are living true to our purpose, then we are infusing each one of those filaments into a divine tapestry that encompasses the entire picture of life. And so it is my pleasure. It is my honor to join you. I got an emergency text from our mutual friend, Rob. You know, is there any possibility? And I said, yes, of course. I said, just, you know, give me a couple of minutes between shows.
Yeah.
Because I just finished Soul School Sojourn, which is the show I do on Monday evenings on KGRA with my friend Jeff Turner. And it's interesting. He's a former pastor. And about a year ago, I became an ordained minister.
Oh, congratulations.
Because I was doing so much grief counseling and I, you know, had always felt that calling and, you know, but I was not affiliated with any particular religion or anything. I have a degree in philosophy, which means I had to study all the world religions. And I've distilled it down to a few very simple key points. And I think that the common denominator in all of our belief systems is the golden rule. And I like to say it as do unto others as though you are the others. you know, because we are, you know, we're all suffering this illusion or delusion that we're separate from each other. No, we're not. No, we're all connected. We are all connected. And I think that when you tap into that higher level, that unified field of consciousness, that not only do you have that a real true sense of community and loving each other on a spiritual level, which aids in our ascension, but it also really begins to help people release that feeling of isolation, which we've all battled, especially, you know, through the height of COVID, you know, when we all had to become hermits because it was the only way you could show people how much you love them was to stay the hell away from them. You know, I mean, this has been a real trial by fire for all of humanity. And, you know, with all of the social upheaval and, of course, this horrific war going on in Western Europe, you know, it's been a lot to take in. But I also think that it is the most poignant, personal, and profound time for the paranormal to rise to the surface. You know, I think that because so many of us have suffered losses, profound losses, that this is the truth of it, that we need to come together in our grief and to provide some tranquility and some solace for each other at this time, because there, for the grace of God, go I. This has been a time where, you know, people have died alone because they were not allowed to be with their loved ones because they were in isolation in a hospital room. And that has been such a particularly difficult thing. And yet I cannot tell you how many people in these last couple of years have reached out to me and told me that they've had experiences, paranormal, supernatural experiences for the first time in their lives. You know, that it wasn't that they didn't believe, but they had just not personally experienced what they were fascinated by. And now that's happening. And I think it's the cosmic secrecy of seed, you know, that we have planted our seed in the deep, black, moist earth and then put so much pressure on it that it has ruptured. And each little filament is trying to work its way through that dirt, through the earth, so that it can spring forth in new life with the light of the sun. And that is a beautiful metaphor for how we live. And this is our time to be fractured. And this is also our time to come together.
I agree. And, you know, you touched on something here, and, you know, just a quick little, you know, if you don't know, which I would be shocked that anybody doesn't realize this, but your family is the inspiration behind the Conjuring House. I guess, do we call it a franchise? I'm not sure if that's what they refer to it as, but, you know, and so in the scary movie world, right, there is this particular narrative that they throw out there with the movie. I have to be honest, it's not a movie that I've been interested in, but for a whole different reason. Nothing about, I kind of walk away from anything that uses a highly Christian narrative when it comes to dealing with paranormal. It's a little bit of a turnoff for me. It's not a dig on the people who do that. It's just not for me.
Well, that wasn't accurate anyway, Sarah.
Okay.
I mean, that film portrayed the you know, and I'm not dissing The Conjuring. I would not be one of the best-selling writers in this genre had it not been for this enormously successful feature film. But Hollywood does not give people credit for innate intelligence. And they think that everything has to be juxtaposed. Everything has to be opposing forces like this. And so the first film, which is the only film that's actually about our family,
Okay.
and then all the rest of them are based on other case files of the Warrens. The Warrens were known as being, devout Roman Catholics, and everything was angels and demons. And, I mean, they had their own very unique, distinct perspective on things. But unfortunately, it portrayed my family as, somehow godless heathens. And nothing could have been further from the truth. Right. My father was born and raised in the Roman Catholic tradition. He attended parochial school. He joined the Navy. His plan was to go directly into the seminary after he served his country. And then he met my mother, and all bets were off. He fell in love, and 5 kids later, but that was a real distortion in the film. I really do believe that, because we were all born and raised Catholic, we were all baptized, we all made our first communion. I made my confirmation. It was the Catholic Church abandoned my family. It was not the other way around. And my father was so hurt, so struck by the fact that our priest, because of something my baby sister, God rest her soul, she sat in church on the second Easter that we lived at the farmhouse. So I guess it was around 1972. And the priest who was serving Mass said, "And the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost." And April turned to my mother, and she looked up in her face with her big, bright blue eyes. And she said, "See, Mom, God has ghosts just like we do."
I love that.
At the top of her voice, her big outdoor voice in the middle of the church, and all the heads turned.
Yeah.
And the priest followed us out of the church that morning and approached my father and said, "Mr. Perron, I would appreciate it if you would take your family and worship elsewhere."
Wow.
My father was devastated.
Yeah.
Devastated. Here is a man who was as devout as either of the Warrens could have been, did not believe in ghosts, could not wrap his mind around what was happening at that farmhouse until it began happening to him. And then he had no choice but to process it. And he was very fearful because he was so afraid. He had moved his family into a home where he had absolutely no control over what was happening in that house. Absolutely zero control. The ball is always in the court of spirit. They call the shots. They decide when they are going to manifest, how they are going to manifest, what energy source they are going to use to manifest. And when you've moved 5 little girls who are just balls of energy into a farmhouse that had, for all intents and purposes, been dormant for years, with just sweet old elderly Mr. Kenyon living alone in that house, that humongous house. I'm sure it was a shock to the system, to the spirits. Personally, I can't say that I believe in demons because I've never seen a demon. But I do know that pure, unadulterated evil exists in the world. And, and I've seen manifestations of that in that house. And the Warrens imposed a seance on my parents, on my mother, and my father as well, that threw open wide the doors to the netherworld. I believe that the medium that was conducting the seance committed spiritual malpractice, and she invited everything in to determine who the culprit was that was wreaking havoc in the house, and it attacked my mother. My mother was not possessed. My mother was attacked. She was picked up in the chair in which she sat at the table, and she was levitated about 2 feet into the air, and then in a fraction of a second, she and the chair were tossed from the middle of our dining room into the middle of the parlor. And when everyone who was present in the house that night, including the Warrens, heard her head strike the floor, we all thought we had just seen her die. And it was the most terrifying and the most traumatizing event of my entire life. And I was only 15 years old, and it fundamentally shaped me. I mean, not only did I know for a fact, beyond any shadow of a doubt, certain knowledge that there is something beyond our mortal existence, whatever it was that was allowed to come in by invitation into that house that night was so purely evil that it silenced the spirits. It literally frightened them.
Huh. Wow.
But 2 months later, 2.5 months later, my mother found her way back. And I think that that was the most important thing that happened at the farmhouse, because she had been wasting away. She had, she suffered a tremendous concussion during that incident. It really did almost claim her life. It was very, very bad. And my father threw the Warrens and their whole entourage out of the house. It was really ugly. Needless to say, that scene didn't make it into the movie.
Yeah, well, of course.
They cherry picked the story from the case files, which I'm sure was written to glorify their participation. And my story, which good, bad, and ugly is true, every word of it, in my trilogy of books, House of Darkness, House of Light. Anybody that wants to know the true story of The Conjuring, buckle up, buttercups. You will not be the same when you're done reading the trilogy. It will fundamentally change the way you think about literally everything. And it will open you in ways, it will open your third eye, it will break your heart, and then hand it back to you healed. And you won't understand how that happened. And you will feel like you actually lived at the farm with us for the 10 years that we were there. It has a profound effect on people a truly significant effect on people that seems to liberate them. But all it really does is hand them the key that they've really already, had possession of to liberate themselves. They just needed a little help. This is a tremendous time for the paranormal to come to the forefront right now, because we've lost over 1 million people just in this country to COVID. 1 in 400 human beings have perished to this disease, and that means all those families have been fractured and broken and are in deep grief. And this is the time to give them some hope that there is indeed an afterlife and that their loved ones are not very far away at all. Just talk to them. They will respond to you in undeniable ways. There won't be any question that the person that you are communicating with is communicating back with you. They just need permission to do that. And so by opening up that line of communication, you're giving them that implicit permission to be able to communicate with you. Everything is one thing, and everything is energy. Everything is consciousness. It's all one thing. And so when each one of us taps into the unified field of consciousness, we are speaking with spirit. We are all surrounded by spirit all the time. That is the one thing that I learned at the farm. My mom said, we can leave the farm, but the farm will never leave us. And she was absolutely right about that. It's because of the lessons that we learned there. And, she even says to me I went through hell in that house, but I don't have any regrets about living there, because it taught me everything that I ever needed to know about life and death and the afterlife. And I have no fear of death at all.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because a lot of people do, and a lot of people sit on the fence and they just don't know. I've been on the fence for years, so it's to have some confirmation within yourself.
Yes,
is what we all really need.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned a couple times about how paranormal needs to step up at this point, and I think that I I think paranormal is such a personal, we always say that it's such a personal experience, right? Like we throw that out there as investigators or explorers, and we say that, but then yet we kind of constantly try to fit it into this box, or
it doesn't fit.
Right. Or we try to fit it into the Warren category right. So we kind of have these little ways that in paranormal, we want to be accepted. We want our theories to be heard. And so it's no secret. I kind of just don't follow that, but I feel like, and I would love to I got to get my hands on your books. I want to read this because I think that it is very an important subject, which is, to me, paranormal is personal. It's so personal that I often what we're experiencing, to me, is one of those things that it's shown to you for a reason. So when we have these people out there always wrangling the demons, you have to ask yourself, you have to be honest with yourself, not with anybody else, right? What are you really wrangling here?
Right.
Why is this being shown to you? I have not had such a negative experience. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm so much better. I'm just saying we all deal with our demons and what lessons or what healing needs to happen within us. Right.
Yes.
And so I think this is where, when the investigators that kind of follow that narrative, they're not really kind of accepted into the fold quite yet. Right. So
Sarah, I can't tell you how much criticism I have gotten from within a community. They're like, oh God, you're all about light and love and acceptance and being touched by spirit. And, you never untouched again and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We're trying to monetize fear here.
Yes.
That's what we do. We deal with fear and loathing and horror because it makes people feel alive. And, that's effed up as far as I don't know how much I can actually say on your, but I don't really hold anything back. So I'm hoping your producer will be tolerant of me in case I go off. But it is something that I think that each one of us needs to explore within ourselves. But I don't know why anybody would be afraid of knowledge.
Yeah.
And, ultimately, that is what we are gathering and we are compiling and we are and sharing is, being brave enough, courageous enough to take our personal encounters and our stories and to put them out into the world. And unfortunately, there are people in this field that would make anybody that was, looking from 60,000 feet to go, oh my God, that's a self-devouring beast. And yes, it can be. And I don't associate with those people. I'm not here for everyone. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I'm not here to coerce anybody of nothing. You don't, believe me or don't believe me. I don't care. It's like the old book title, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business.
Right.
It is, I don't have issues with them. They can monetize away whatever they want to. Sure. I speak my truth, and my truth is love. And I love the spirits at the farmhouse, even the cranky, disgruntled ones. I do, because they exist.
Yeah.
I don't care who they were in life, that they still are in afterlife. That's the freaking miracle right there. Imagine a world where spirit exists, but none of us ever encounter it. None of us ever know that, it's the big secret.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in a house where they were not shy about interacting. They were not shy about making their presence known. It didn't happen every minute of every day. It certainly didn't happen every night. Most of my encounters happened in broad daylight. The same is true for the Galactic Family. I don't need to wait for, dark, spooky. No, just face them in the light. Face your fears. It is what makes you stronger. It's what makes you braver. It's what makes you powerful. And what it does is, if you embrace your fear, you disempower it. You take it all back, because if you love it, it has no power against you. It can't be used against you as a force.
Right. Yeah, it's such an interesting, take, I think, especially with the Conjuring House again, because we follow the Hollywood narrative of what the Conjuring House is, right? We don't give your story as much credence. And I think what's really sad is here we are, with these opportunities. And this is where I struggle a little bit with working within paranormal. And, look, I love to have the creepy feeling. I love to go into the buildings and look, and you get a little startled, and I love all that. I do. The unknown is beyond exciting. But when I'm really doing my own research, it is very interesting that we have these moments, like you said, to connect with universe is what we're doing, and when you kind of take that paranormal phrase out of it and you're talking about universe and what was before us, and how we just have this constant circle of interaction. It's a moment to look with inside. And I think that that's where, that's where when we look social media wise with paranormal, I don't know that this is a conversation for people who really want to step outside of that and say, okay, what
actually step inside, because
sure.
That's where the sacred space is. That's where the inflection point is. That's where our growth comes from, with understanding that we are each divine beings, that we are expression of the consciousness that created us, and it's the way it sees its own creation, that we are one with it. And I guess if I have a so-called belief system, that's it. And it's pretty simple: kindness, love, expressions of gratitude and compassion for all living things, and for this beautiful planet that we defile on such a regular basis, that if we don't learn our lessons well, she'll just kick us off, because she can make it without us. We can't make it without her,
right?
So Mother Gaia is my grounding source. And you know what, when the priest told our family to leave the church, when we got home, my father was so upset he just went into his room and closed the door. And my mother came out, because we were concerned. I mean,
Sure.
It was very rare that we saw Dad that upset. And we went to her, and she wrapped us, her little girls, in her arms, just extended them as far as she could and wrapped us and pulled us in. And she said something I will never forget. And she said, "If you want to know God, my girls, go to the woods. Go to the woods."
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So do you feel like with the Conjuring House and the experiences that you had, the spirits that you met, and, now you have the only other story I would know, and I feel like I might know his a little bit better just because I haven't delved into yours yet, would be Rob's and his story of the Conjuring House.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel those are moments of, how do I put this? Like the spirits come to you when they're needed, whether it's a negative or not. We all you have to walk through the crap to get to the good. I mean, that's just sort of life, right? So do you feel like for people who come, not everybody's going to have the same experience, right? I'm not everybody has Rob's experience. Not everybody has your experience. But do you feel those spirits sort of search out those people that might be ripe for the picking for those lessons at that time?
Yes. I think that they know everything, and that they are, once you are touched by spirit, you cannot close that door ever again. You can deny it. You can turn your back to it. Eventually something will reach through and tap you on the shoulder and make its presence known and remind you that it is there, that it is always there. To me, I find that extraordinarily comforting. I would not want to have lived blind. Even though there were many challenges that we faced for the decade that we lived in that house, it was soul school, and the test precedes the lesson, always in life. But it truly was. And, I can't even imagine how I would have turned out as a now 63-year-old woman, 50 plus years on from, for half a century of my life, I have known known that there is something beyond our mortal existence. And for that, and I still can't tell you what it is. And if anybody, let me just give you one piece of advice to you and all your listeners. Anybody ever comes up to you and says, I've got the answers, turn and run in the opposite direction. Not only are they lying to themselves, they're lying to you. They don't have the answers. No one has the answers. If my family doesn't know, no one does on the planet. And I don't think we're necessarily supposed to know all the answers. I think we're supposed to search and to evolve spiritually and to, question our existence and to grow from within. And it's always an inside job, as within, so without. Once you get centered and you find your true north on your personal compass, then you can live life with integrity. You can live life honestly. You can do all the good that you can do in the world, and know that as you make your transition, your transformation out of this vessel back into the realm from which we come, that you can do so in a way that is peaceful and tranquil, and that will not keep you an earthbound soul. I've always felt that, once my mom realized that the house was quote unquote haunted, she said, they're not just passing through, they're attached to this property. There's something about this house that they did not feel that they could leave. Either they left unfinished business or they took their own lives. And so, if you think that's like, taboo now, think back 200-300 years ago. It was considered the ultimate sin. And so imagine having a life that was so full of pain and so unbearable that you decided to take the risk of ending it yourself, and then you don't go to the light because you don't know if it is the light of eternal divine or if it is eternal fire and brimstone and damnation. And because we compartmentalize and everything is good or evil, darkness or light, yes, we live in duality. We live in an oppressive 3D realm that is just, it's intended to pressurize us, to break us open so that our seeds can sprout, so that we can grow. And that, that curiosity, that fascination, that search and research is all part of the process. And, the most faithful thing I think that you can do in life is to search for something that you will never find and do it anyway.
I'm almost thinking, Andrea, it would almost be interesting. I don't know how viable this would be, but the way you speak of this farm, what if this house and this land was taken out of that Hollywood narrative and used for the spooky, and more into what I have witnessed from your shows that I have watched and your discussion with Rob. What if this farmland and this house became a place where people tapped into themselves, and the spirits that don't want to leave are there, the bad and the good, the negative and the positive, are there to bring things out for people to work in. So sort of a little inner retreat of, this is, I'm a trauma-filled person. I have unhealed business that needs to be tended to, and I want to know what it is because I just feel that angst within me. So you go to this property and you open yourself to this realm, to this world, and it shows you what you do need to work on. And then you have all these amazing people that you have yourself surrounded with working within that realm and energy for healing, instead of, I'm not trying to take away their money maker here, but I feel like the way you speak about this house, it is a different, you're looking at the spirits as teachers, as mirrors, as, just, I don't know, healers really is how I'm looking at it, how you
I'm
discuss
grateful. there's there's a sign, do not come into this house and try to cross a spirit. It's not your job.
Right.
If they're here for a reason. And I'm very glad that the current owners have done that. But your suggestion is actually underway.
Oh, look at
There
that.
is a transition that is occurring right now. I was there last week. There is a transition which is occurring right now that will ultimately, when it has come to fruition, will resemble very much what you just described.
Well.
That it will be, I've always described the farm as a portal cleverly disguised as a farmhouse.
Yeah.
And it is that. It is it's like a vortex. It's like it's an energy center. There is water all around it in the shape of a pyramid. I mean, it is it's loaded with galactic family, extraterrestrial activity. It's loaded with spirit activity. And I don't even like to think of it as I think there's a lot of negative connotations that are attached to the words in our vernacular that we use about this. I don't call them ghosts or ghost hunting. I think that that has kind of an implicit violence, imbued in the whole notion. But actually, I think of it more as a very gentle, very loving, very interactive association. A true communion and communication. And so, because I've had that, because I grew up that way, it prepared the ground for, all these decades later for me to have this conversation with the two of you and your audience that might alter perspectives on this, because they do have something to teach us. They do have something to infuse into our search and research for who they are, why they are still here. And I think that as much as, I perceive human beings to be predominantly fear-based carbon units, I think that the same is true for earthbound spirits, that they're afraid of something. They don't move on because they're more comfortable staying where they were, where they lived. It doesn't mean that they cannot come and go, but there is a profound attachment that has been formed. And because I feel it in life, I can certainly perceive their attachment as well. And there's something magical and mystical and utterly sacred about this place that the movie didn't even touch. It barely scratched the surface. It's about 95% fiction conjured in the minds of two screenwriters that had a line to toe, according to the Hollywood brass, every time they tried to infuse or interject any of my stories. Well, the director, James Wan, read my books and he was completely blown away. And he's like, oh, hell no, we can't tell this story. It will run people out of the theater. I don't think of my story or my family's story as a horror story at all. It's a love story that happens to have a kind of a wicked supernatural twist. There were characters, individuals in that house in spirit, in the form of spirit, one of which did not like my mother at all and wanted her the hell out of that house, wanted my father and us to stay, wanted mom to leave, because I feel like in some way she was threatened. She felt like she was the rightful mistress of the house, and she wanted to relive her life as such. And my mother was the imposition. And that's certainly how I perceived it over the course of a decade, seeing these incidents occur over and over and over again. They can manipulate energy. They can change form. They can manipulate objects. They can use our technology. I mean, they're so tuned in and they're so observant. And, a case in point, I went to Penhurst Asylum a few years ago, and they had a spirit box and a couple of Pandora's boxes, and they had all kinds of their gadgets and doodads and gizmos. And I was with my friend George Lopez, who I wrote in a Flickr with, that history mystery thriller about Jack the Ripper. Just a slight diversion for me. And he walked in and he said, we were in the Devon house, which is where the children played. And we walked in and he said, is there anyone here who knows? I have Andrea Perron with me. Is there anyone here who knows about the film that about her family story? And through all the devices simultaneously came one phrase: The Conjuring.
Wow.
Now, if you extrapolate that, and we've got it all recorded, I mean, we have proof of our assertion here. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, if you extrapolate this theory out, either they are all up in our business all the time,
yeah,
in every conceivable way, and none of us have any privacy at all, or AMC has a branch of theaters somewhere else in the netherworld.
Yeah.
And they watched it too.
Yeah.
It is literally the only horror movie I have ever seen. I do not pollute my brain
with
imagery that I cannot handle. The only reason I have been forced to see The Conjuring 10 times is because I was at 10 premieres over the course of a week, from Hollywood all the way to the East Coast, all the way to the South. And because Warner Brothers put me out as the face of the film, and told me, tell people there's a real story behind this. Tell them about your books. Tell them. I mean, they didn't, try to get me to tamp the truth down.
Right.
But I think that people deserve to have the truth brought to light.
Yeah.
And so that's why for, all these years, and my little company, which I think we should rename Global Pandemic Productions, because we got so much stuff done. And of course, like 2.5 years is ridiculous, right? From the man cave here. I feel like people deserve the truth in all things, the truth, not alternate universe facts, not anything like that. No, the truth. This is what happened. This is how it happened. This is the result. Now take from it what you will. Yeah. And that's it.
And the right people will, right? Like the right people will be
drawn to it when they are ready for it. It's interesting. The trilogy seems to find people, or they find it in unusual ways. It's just so weird.
Right.
But I can't tell you thousands and thousands of letters that I have received that touch my heart, and lift my spirits, because they tell me over and over again, you freed me to tell my own story. I had an experience when I was a child that it changed me on a rudimentary level. I was never the same. It was my personal paradigm shift. And I never told anyone. I never told my parents. I knew they wouldn't believe me. I never told my siblings. I grew up. I got married. I never told my spouse. But I'm telling you, because I know you believe me, because you've been through this and you have freed me to tell my story. I am no longer fearful for reading these books. And that's very powerful. Yeah. But love is our superpower. It's a verb. It only masquerades as a noun. Love is a verb. It's an action word.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you put it into action, that's what this whole story is, a love story. And, in the grand scheme of things, The Conjuring did get it right. It leaves people with 3 very distinct impressions. Good conquers evil. Love conquers fear. The Perron family endured an extreme haunting that they all survived. Boom. That's the truth. And all the gobbledygook and the minutia and the details and all the rest of it. Yeah. My father being all warm and fuzzy with the Warrens, bullshit. Yeah. He just wanted them out of that house. He was like, I don't believe you people. You're going to exploit my family. Get out, get out, get out. And my mother's like, no, we need help. I trust them. So again, duality, conflict, and that's the realm that we live in. Yeah. And so, don't feed the beast.
That's right. Amen.
I had a quick question. When you, at any time when you lived in that house, did you have dreams where the spirits came to you in dreams, or any kind of different types of dreams? And did they carry over into like now after you left the house? Did anything dream pattern?
No, my interaction, to my recollection, was always conscious. I've never dreamed about the spirits at the house.
Interesting.
I don't need to. They visit me, regularly. They're part of me. They're a part of me. I'm a part of them. They knew when I wrote the first draft of what was supposed to be one book and then had to be spliced into 3 because it was that thick.
Yeah.
And they knew. I mean, I went to the farm in March of 2010 after I had finished the first draft, and it was like I was a slab of lobster being immersed in warm drawn butter. It was like the house hugged me. They wanted their story told. I felt such a peaceful, loving vibe in that house, unlike anything that I had ever felt in my life. And it's because they knew I was telling their story, and I was telling it well to my full ability, and honestly and authentically, even the bad stuff. And I think that's why they never really harassed me. They knew I was the journalist. I was keeping journals. I was, denoting and chronicling every event that happened.
Oh.
And, 35, 40 years later, these were the words that I wrote as a child that I used to create the books and to relive the experiences, and have my sisters and my parents, all involved in that process as well. It really is probably the best documented haunting in human history.
I feel like
sounds like it,
2 blondes in a book needs to come back to life.
I agree. We should do it.
Anybody want to read the House of Dark, House of Light, or House of Darkness, House of Light with the blondes? We'll read it with you and we'll discuss. We can maybe do some lives. Maybe we can get Andrea back on and we can discuss.
I will. I'll absolutely.
We'll have lots of questions. Okay, so we had so much to talk about, and I kept saying, "Are you kidding me? We only have 10 minutes left," and that makes me so sad. That's like I agree. I think I'll come back. Like we could talk to you for hours and hours.
I'll come back.
Oh, awesome. Did you see anything, Dee Dee, that kind of caught your attention?
I just see a whole lot of conversation, but I didn't see. I think
everybody's
them
just
asking
riveted.
Questions to each other.
Yeah, I think everybody was just riveted. Well, I have to be honest with you, Andrea. I really didn't have any knowledge of you. And like I said, I didn't really follow anything, and because of the affiliation with the Warrens, I just didn't follow the story of the Conjuring House. But it is interesting how, and maybe one day it will be shared with you, sort of how our paths crossed. And it is very interesting because, things do happen at the right time for the right reasons. And, you stepped up when Rob asked, and we were kind of scrambling on a Saturday night, like, oh my God, the show's Monday and our guest is totally, has to cancel. So this is amazing and such an honor to have you on the show. And I have to say, I've been chatting with your friend, Erin, and what a lovely soul Erin is. And we're going to have her on the show as well, because she's got a crazy, cool story as well that we need to share.
She does. And thank you, Danielle, for that lovely comment, sweetheart. That truly touches my heart.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. We could do a show with you and Rob. We should have a big conversation here. That would be awesome. That might have to be like a blonde after party too, right? We'll do a little of the network, and then we'll do a little blonde after party, and you can say what we want. And you guys can really get into it.
So this is just as in Casablanca, beginning of a beautiful friendship. This is. I do believe that everyone is drawn together for purpose and reason. We are birds of a feather. We take flight together, and it is. I completely understand your perspective, Sarah. I've struggled with it myself. I understand. Dee Dee, I've, really wanted to talk with you as well. I mean, Rob thinks the world of both of you. Can't say enough nice things.
Aww.
And so let me just tell you this. I don't know where either of you are located in the country, but the experience that you seek at that farmhouse will come to pass for you. And I will be there with you. I just know it. And Rob will be there too. I just know it. So
I love that.
You know, the best is yet to come. The most enlightening, illuminating aspects of this farm are yet to be revealed. Yeah. And I know that I will get to be a part of that. And so will you, because I pre-loved you when Rob told me about both of you. And now it's official, down on it, hardcore love.
Aw, well, it is returned 100%. And Rob, you're okay. You're all right.
Yeah, we're keeping him.
We'll keep
him.
Well,
he's easy on the eyes, and for no other reason.
He's kind of like that dude that all the chicks just kind of he's like a magnet, right?
All magnetized and stuff.
Yeah, we get it. We see all the chicks, Rob. We get it. Okay, well, guys, you can catch her on, what's your show on Monday again? I'm sold.
Monday from 6 to 7 on KGRA, and also on my YouTube channel. Please hop on to my YouTube, Andrea Perron YouTube, and subscribe. It will give you the notification. Soul School Sojourn is from 6 to 7. It's kind of a contemplative, meditative, deep dive, emotionally week to week with my partner, Jeff Turner. And then on Friday nights from 9 to 11, also on KGRA, also on Facebook and my YouTube. We simulcast like all over the freaking universe. Easy to find. Hop right on. It's called A World Awakening. And when I tell you no subject off the table, I mean, if you just start going back through the archives, your mind will be blown wide open.
Great guest. You have. I was stalking your A World Awakening, and let me tell you, there are some great guests there, great topics. Guys, you all in the chat, thank you so much for your support and coming out to check out Miss Perron here. Seriously, everybody, we love you too. You guys have just been amazing supports. And Andrea, I look forward to more conversations with you. Little maybe off the show conversations with you, a little more personal, because I think there's some weird poppings and buzzings in the universe right now. And I feel like I'm catching some, and I think Dee Dee is too, to be honest with you. I think we're catching something here, and it just kind of feels
vibe,
like,
baby. It's my vibe.
That's right. Listen, you got a show of goddesses here today. You were talking my language in the beginning. I'm all about goddessing. So this has been awesome. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate your time, Andrea, and I cannot wait to read your books. Seriously.
Yeah, I agree.
And seriously, anybody that wants to read them with us, we will chat about this. We'll set that up. So we've got for next week, we are going to be speaking to Mr. Wes Coleman of Cops Paranormal. So we'll have a little fun with Wes, and then we're going to be starting June. Like, is that right? Am I right?
I don't know how it happened.
I'm not even sure where am I anymore.
You missed a week, but that's okay.
Did I? Do I have enough?
We have
guests?
our Memorial Day episode.
A special. So we have Wes Coleman, and then we have a special coming out that's pre-recorded. I'm sorry, and that's just as great because it's the two blondes talking about their favorite things. So, Mondays 7 with the blondes, and we keep getting amazing guests, and I don't even know how we're going to top this.
Yeah.
Bless your hearts. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for saying yes
to me. It's, the more of us can reach out and come together, the more powerful we become in terms of healing the world of its woes. And, that needs to be our primary focus. Our main objective is to love each other powerfully, because that is truly our superpower as human beings, as mere mortals. Yes, it is.
Amen. Well, with that, guys, we send you love. We send you love, Andrea. Dee Dee, amazing show. Thank you. Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Couldn't be any better. Guys, have an amazing rest of your Monday night, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Good night.
See you.